Welcome to PlanHub's Masterclass courses for Takeoff and Estimation. My name is Greg. In this video, you'll learn how to use Takeoff and estimation tools to complete an estimate for the concrete trade. Knowing how to set yourself up for successful takeoffs and estimates will save you time and money so you can bid more projects and grow your company. For a full takeoff and estimate, your first step is to obtain any pertinent details. For this training, I've found a project, reviewed the plans, and sent them into Takeoff tool using the file viewer. Please watch the Takeoff Getting Started videos if you'd like to learn more about this process. Here on the plan page, the first thing I have to do is set the scale in the program so it knows how to measure the pixels within this document. I'm going to slide up to my toolbar and click the scale icon. It opens, of course, to the standard mode by default. I'm going to click the menu, scroll down, and select the scale that matches my page, and then click Set. Best practice is to validate any scale that you set within PlanHub, so I'm going to go up to the ruler tool, click to launch. I get my crosshairs from my cursor. I'm going to zoom in on my starting point, click to drop that point, drag it all the way across to the opposite end, click to drop the final point, and let's see. We're within 14/100ths of an inch across the 21-foot span, so well within acceptable guidelines. So now that I'm ready to take my slab measurement, I'm going to go up top, click to activate the area icon, and choose multi-point since this is an irregular shape. Next, I'm going to give it a custom name, of course. This is going to be SOG or slab on grade. Then I'm going to click Set to get started. I get my crosshairs. I'm going to zoom in on the corner I want to begin with, drop that initial point, and then trace the entire outline of the slab. And now that I'm at my final point, I double click there to drop the final point. Over at the side, we've got about 5297.29 square feet. Alright, that's the initial measurement we need to take. We do have others, however, there is far more detail on this plan that we have to accommodate for. Next, we're going to accommodate for the additional rebar that's required around some of our blockouts. Here we have number 5 in slab each side. Bar length shall be 4 feet 0 inches longer than the blockout diameter. So blockout diameter here is these are 2 foot. And we could take a quick ruler measurement to verify that. There we go. We have 1 foot 11¼ inches. So we're definitely counting these as 2 foot diameter blockouts. We're going to have 2 foot beyond each side, so that's a total of 6 feet times 4. So 24 feet of rebar for each one of these blockouts that requires rebar. I'm going to get a count of those so we can accommodate for that additional rebar. Here's our count tool. I'm going to give it a name that reflects what it is I'm counting. This is rebar for blockouts. In the description, I'm going to add some more detail to that. This is where I'm going to accommodate for the 4 6-foot number 5 bars. Next, I'm going to click Set. Then I'm going to drop a count point on every one of these blockouts that shows it requires rebar. This is also the same amount of bar that's required for this blockout for the mop sink, so I'm going to go ahead and click it and add that for that additional amount of rebar there. And there we go. I've counted all of the blockouts now that require rebar. Next, I'm going to get another square footage area, this time to accommodate for the slab that is twice as thick as the rest of the slab is, and that's the area under the IT rack. Now, according to the specs, it is required to be an 8-inch thick slab. The rest of the slab is 4 inches. So I'm going to grab the area. This time I'm going to start a 2-point. I'm going to call it my 8-inch thickened slab. Pick some bright bold colors that are easy to see on the page, and click Set to get started. This is a square, so I chose 2 points. So I can click in one, drag it across, and measure the area with just 2 clicks. So we have 30.54 square feet. That is 8 inches thick. That will have to be charged at a separate rate from the 4-inch slab in the rest of the building. Alright, so I've made my surface area measurements for both my 8-inch and my 4-inch slab, as well as the additional rebar around the blockouts. Next, need to accommodate for a continuous footing around the perimeter of this building. So next step for us is we're going to measure the outside perimeter of the slab for our footing. I'm going to use the linear tool to get the linear foot measurement of the perimeter of this building for our footing, and then I'm going to accommodate for the rebar and for the actual concrete pour, for the stirrups and the ties, everything in an assembly. But first we've got to get our linear measurement, so I click linear and then chose line. This is for my continuous footer. Next I click set to get started, of course, and then we're going to measure the center of this ditch all the way around the plan. Here we are placing the final point with a double click. Grand total, we've got just under 306 linear feet around this structure. Now that we have all the measurements we need to start building our estimate, there are a couple of strategy items that we need to consider. What I'm going to demonstrate for you is, first we're going to charge for the slab pours, and we're going to do that separately from the footing pours. Even though we're going to pour them continuously on the project, I'm just going to demonstrate to you how you can bundle everything into one price if you have a square foot price. For instance, in this case I'm going to be sending the result for the square foot measurement of the entire slab, and I'm going to be charging $5.50 per square foot, so that includes the wire mesh and everything, the pour, the finish, the works. However, on the footing, I'm going to break that into detail. So if you wanted to estimate your job by the detail according to the pound of rebar that you use and the number of ties, etc., everything itemized, that'll be the tactic I use whenever I charge for the footer. But first we're going to charge for the actual square foot of the slab pour. This is a 4-inch thick slab on grade, so it is going to come in about $5.50 per square foot. So right here the top measurement result is the area of the slab on grade. So I right click that and choose add to estimate. This is a brand new project, don't have one created yet, so I click create new estimate and then click add. So I'm going to migrate over to my project estimate and see what happened there. So two things happen. We took an area measurement result and sent it in, so of course we get the perimeter that comes in automatically with that. I don't particularly want this added to that line item, so I'm going to delete the linear portion and leave just the square foot measurement. I'm going to click the edit pencil, address any of the additional fields here that I want. Most importantly, this is where I'm going to assign the $5.50 per square foot. That is for the finish slab on grade. When I click save, it reconciles the math, so we're already up to $29,135.10 for this project, just off of the actual slab on grade. So if you were estimating everything as one bulk price, then you'd basically be done here. Next, I'm going to pop back over to my measurements, because again we also have an 8-inch thickened slab. I'm going to charge for about $7 per square foot on that, so I'm going to right click and send that over by adding it to estimate, putting it in the newly created project estimate 1, click add, and then now that we're over on our estimate again, same thing, I do not need the linear perimeter, so I'm going to delete that line item. However, on the square footage of the 8-inch thickened slab, I click edit, and then I scroll over so that I can apply the $7 per square foot for the 8-inch thick slab. Just like that, we're up to $29,348.88 for this project. So next, we're going to switch gears a little bit and let's talk about how we would itemize these details. I'm going to come back over to my measurements page and take, like for instance, our continuous footer. Now we know in a continuous footer you've got your volume of concrete that you actually have to physically pour and charge for, but you also have your rebar. According to the details and the specs in this document, this particular continuous footing has 4 number 6, that's 2 top and 2 bottom, number 6 rebars throughout the entire length of this continuous footing. It also has a number 3 8x18 stirrup or tie on 24-inch centers. That means every 2 feet we're going to have to charge for a tie. And all of these are based off the linear measurement result that we took for the 305.78 linear feet of the outside of the building. So what I want to do is show you how we can build an assembly to accommodate for all of those detailed items off of this one single measurement. So in order to do that, I'm going to navigate to my assemblies area by clicking assemblies at the top. Next, I'm going to create a new assembly by clicking the create assembly button. I'm going to give this assembly a name. I'm going to set the measurement type to define what measurement result this particular assembly will be able to accept. Next, I'm going to begin adding cost items. First, we have our number 6 rebar. This rebar we buy and we want to sell it or price it out to our customer by the pound, and our result is in linear feet, so I know we're going to have to make an adjustment to accommodate for that conversion. But the unit cost per pound is going to be 65 cents per pound, so I enter that into my unit cost box. Next, this is a material, so I set that under my item type, and our unit of measure, this is the desired output. So this is going to be pounds, or lbs, in PlanHub. I typed lb, zeroed in on it, clicked it to select, and save my changes. Next, of course, I have to apply the formula to the back side of the assembly. In this case, I'm going to be converting from linear feet to pounds of number 6 rebar. I already have a formula built out for this. It's right here. It's number 6 rebar from linear result, 4 bars, which is exactly what I need for this. So I'm going to click the Add button and show you the math that actually is going to apply every time we use this assembly. This one cost item, we're going to take the length result, multiply it times the weight of 1 foot of number 6 bar, which is 1.503 pounds. Then I'm going to multiply that entire result by 4 because we have 4 bars in the continuous footer. So I have selected that formula. Next, I'm going to apply it to my cost item, and then I'm going to continue to add the other cost items below. So next we have our ties. These are number 3 ties, 24 inches on center. These are going to be $2.25 a piece. Their unit of measure is going to be each, and they are also materials. Save the changes and apply the formula. Here we're going to have the length divided by 2 foot. So I already have a length divided by 2 foot formula. If I didn't, then I would give the formula a name, select length, and then divide by 2. Since I already have that formula, I click the plus button to add it, and then apply it to cost item. We still need to accommodate for the labor, so I'm going to add another cost item. This is going to be the pour and labor. So here I'm going to charge $2.75 per linear foot. That's for the pour and the finish. I click save. And of course we need to add a formula to the back side of this. This is the exact number of linear feet for the length, so all I need is a length formula. I know I already have a length formula set up and saved, so I search it at the top. There it is, length with nothing else to it. Click the plus button and then apply to cost item. This item is going to be charged by the linear foot, so in the unit of measure, I charge by the linear foot. Next we click save. One thing we don't have here is the volume of concrete required for this footing pour. So in order to get that here, I'm not going to charge for it here because I'm charging for it at the $2.75 per linear foot for the pour and the labor. But I need to know how much concrete I need to order for the job. So in that case, I'm going to add another line item. This is going to be amount of concrete. Unit cost is going to be 0. Again, this is just for me to get the information out. This is going to be for materials. Unit of measure is going to be the cubic yard. Save that. Next we need to add the formula so that we can get from our linear foot result over to our cubic yards of material required to fill this ditch with concrete. I've got a formula already set up. I'm going to add it and show you what that is. That is taking the length multiplied times the dimensions of the ditch, the height and the width, then dividing by 27 to convert from cubic feet over to cubic yards. I'm going to apply that to the cost item, save the changes. Now this is going to be available for us to use over in our estimate, so I navigate back to the Takeoff window. Here I'm going to grab that length measurement, which is our continuous footer, right click and add that to our estimate by sending it to the assembly first. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom to find my continuous footer with number 6 rebar. put it in project estimate 1 by clicking add. It's going to verify the results. If that's what I want to use, I click insert. Next, I'm going to navigate over by clicking the banner, and it's going to take me directly to the page in the estimate where that assembly result was put. Now if I expand out below, our total results is we're going to require 839 pounds of number 6 rebar at 65 cents a pound, so that comes in at $11.95. We've also itemized our amount of stirrups based on 2 foot. On centers, it would require 153 of these stirrups, so they're going to be $2.25 each, and that comes in at $344.25. Continuing on down the line, for our labor pour charge is based on 305.78 linear feet at $275 per. That's $840.90. And at the bottom, we know how much concrete to order now because we've converted from linear feet over to 38 yards of concrete for that footing pour. Again, this is an example of an itemized estimate. If we want to actually accommodate for all the materials, the labor, etc., each as an individual line item in our estimate. This is the way you could do that.
Next, we're going to account for our rebar that we need for the additional blockouts. We need 4 6-foot long number 5 bars for each one. So we're going to convert the count of the blockouts to the pounds of number 5 rebar required to reinforce those areas. So again, this is going to begin with an assembly creation. So I'm going to click Assemblies. This is going to be a custom assembly build because I don't already have one built out that will accommodate for additional sections of number 5 rebar and charge by weight based on a count. So I'm going to click Create Assembly to get started. This is going to be number 5 rebar by the pound for 6-foot lengths. It's going to be based on the count tool, and I'm going to add a cost item for the number 5 rebar. I'm going to go ahead and input this at 75 cents per pound to include our markup. This is for material, and the unit of measure is going to be the pound, or lbs, of course, here in PlanHub. Save the changes for the cost item. Next, I'm going to add the formula that's going to convert the count over to pounds. So, we're going to take the count. We're going to multiply that times 6 feet. And we'll go ahead and add parentheses to this just to keep it segregated so I can remember what each section does. Here the count is converting to 6 feet long. That's going to measure the 6-foot lengths. And it's also going to convert the count into lengths for us. Next, we're going to convert by the pound, so we're going to multiply times 1.043 because that is the weight of 1 foot of number 5 rebar. So this name of this formula is going to be count to number 5 rebar 6-foot lengths. I give these things a very descriptive name so that when I see them over in the list later, want to know if I can use it for a new assembly I'm creating, I can look at the title of the name and it's going to tell me exactly what this formula does. So far, let's test this out by clicking Test Formula. Also, I do want to round up these results because I do not want to order a partial pound. Alright, let's say for instance we have 6 of these. I also need 4 bars per hole, so we also need to multiply this entire formula by 4. And that's why we test these folks, so that you can get a good look at it and have an idea of exactly what needs to be done. Oop, I've got too many parentheses. I didn't put a math function in there. There we go. So now we're going to test the formula. So if we have 6 bars times 6-foot length, that's 36 feet altogether, but we need 4 of those, so that's times 4. And we also need to know how many pounds that is, so we multiply that times 1.043 pounds. When I run it, we should come in at 151 if we round up from 150, 0.192. And that's exactly what we get. So I'm going to save this formula, apply it to the cost item. Now we're going to save the changes. And that makes it available in Takeoff. So here in Takeoff, I've got my rebar for blockouts. We actually have 11 of them. So I'm going to right click, send it to assembly. The assembly we want to use is the new one we created right down here. Number 5 rebar by the pound for 6 foot lengths. Put it into our same page of the estimate we're working with. Click add. Click insert to accept the counted value. And then click the banner, of course, to see where that goes so we can inspect what happened when we used it. The new assembly is at the bottom, so I expand it out and we see it has one line item with it. We have 276 pounds of rebar that's required for the blockouts alone. At 75 cents per pound, that comes to $207. So our assembly total is 207, and that added to our page total at the bottom, as well as the project total in the upper right-hand corner. Alright, let's just go through the checklist real quick and make sure we've accommodated for everything we need to charge for. We've got the slab on grade. We measured that and charged by the surface area for the 4-inch and for the 8-inch. And then we've got our continuous footer charge right here, since we broke it out and itemized the footer and the rebar for the blackouts for reinforcement. We've charged for each of those. Formwork is included in the slab on grade price, so I don't need to itemize that. If you do have a workflow that includes it, then you're going to follow a very similar workflow of how I itemized and charged for the continuous footer, placing each one of the items required underneath it. So now that we have all the items accounted for that we need to charge for in this project, next we need to add a little bit of increase to these. So for instance, if I want to increase my materials by any discrete dollar amount, I can use the adjust rate button at the top, leave it set on rate, and I'm going to effect change to just project estimate 1 and also just the material category. Here, if I chose rate, I could add $1 to every rate when I apply it. Here in the adjust rate column, you can see everywhere there's a material, including in our assemblies, it's adjusted the rate by $1. So now for the number 6 rebar in this one line item in the assembly, we're no longer charging 65 cents per pound, we're charging $1 per pound, plus the 65 cents, for a total of $165. That's an example of using a discrete rate to add financial changes to your line items. You can also add percentage changes. So if you want to add a percentage of overhead and profit to your line items, you can zero in by the line item by choosing the adjust rates button at the top, selecting the overhead and profit button, select the page of the estimate you want to make changes to and the categories of items you want to make changes to, leave it set on percentage, and then put your increase here. This is going to apply a 10% increase to all materials in project estimate 1. When I click apply, we can see that these also stack. We still have our adjust rate at $1 for every line item, but now we have a 10% increase on top of that. So our grand total for our slab on grade, for instance, we started at $5.50 per square foot. We added $1 to that for $6.50. Overhead and profit amount is 65 cents, so now we're up to a grand total of $7.15 for that slab. To zero out the overhead and profit, I can do it right here up top with the overall button. This is also how you can effect change to the entire project. So whatever I do here is going to change the entire project. So I'm going to change that percentage back to 0. Click apply, and it zeroes out my overhead and profit. Once you're finished creating your estimate and you're done measuring with your takeoffs, if you need to get the information out, there's a couple of different ways you can print the page here that we're looking at. Number 1, you can go over to the name of the page on the left side, right click and choose download PNG. You can do that with any page in the list here. However, if you just want to quick hit a button to print out the page that's right here in your window, you can go to the upper right hand corner, there's download PNG there. Click it one time and it's going to put that image file directly into a picture viewer where you can see it, edit it, save it, whatever you would like to do. That went across to my other monitor, so I'm going to drag it over. Here you can see it's an exact printout of the page that includes all of the marks we put on the page, all the measurement marks count marks. If we had added text box or markups, then that will be here on the page as well. Next, if you need an output of the measurement results, you can go up the top. The first tab is of course the name of the project. That's your measurement window. Next is project measurements. This is a table that was created while we were measuring inside the project. Every measurement we have is listed here in the table. You can export this using the export button in the upper right hand corner, and it will open up into Excel for you. It's a direct output of every measurement result in the project. Next, we can also print out the estimate. We can export that to Excel as well. In the upper left hand corner this time, a white button, export. We click it one time. We can choose the pages we want to include in the printout, or select the checkbox at the top and it will select all the pages in the estimate. When I export it, it's going to confirm the download, and my browser of course makes me click again. So now the first page that opens up in this export is a summary for the entire project, and then you have a tab for each page of the estimate. We only have one page here, that's why it says Project Estimate 1 at the bottom. And here you have a list of everything inside of that one page of the estimate. All the details for every cost item, and of course the total at the bottom. Finally, the last page in this export is a bill of materials. So this is where, for instance, if we want to know the amount of concrete that we need for that footing, we've got 38 cubic yards right there. Now that you understand how to collect your takeoff measurements, use those measurements to create your estimate, we hope you will move forward, perform takeoffs, and create your own estimates. If at any point in the process you require assistance, you can click the Account Manager button in the upper right hand corner of your PlanHub window. Your account manager will be happy to help you however they can, or if you'd like additional one-on-one training, they can assist you with scheduling that as well.